I've got a new departure in writing. I've written a new book called Blood and Coal, which is about my own family background, and it's really about Nottingham from 1900 to the present day. All my family are miners, and I've tried to bring them alive. And in one interesting section, I talk about all the characters, recreate them, and then they turn on the narrator, which is me, and say, hang on a minute, that's not quite how it was, you got me wrong. So there's an active debate going on. This section tries to think about what it means to come to terms with the past and to relate your own lived experience to it. And it's called Mycelium. Now, Mycelium, as I explain in this section, is a fungus which grows beneath the roots of a tree. And I think it's a useful metaphor as a way of thinking about consciousness. Tolstoy's famous opening to Anna Karenina is, happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. To a certain extent, that's true. Happy families always comprise a balance between needs and desires, between function and frippery. Everyone knows their role in a happy family. There are no gaps between family members' expectations and their rewards, or only small, manageable gaps. Unhappy families, on the other hand, are jagged rather than smooth in their mode of operation. Nothing ever seems easy. Family members are worried that they may be ignored or misconstrued. The degree of inhibition is crucial. How much do you dare not say? How dense is the silence? Which of the other relatives is your double? Which is your enemy? All families are held together in mysterious ways. Individuals within the family can perhaps be compared to trees in the forest. Every character has their roots, but those roots are nourished not only by the soil, but by the hidden network of mycelium, underground fungi which link and stimulate all. Some recent research has suggested that the mycelium functions as a sort of primitive communication system. We could conceive of a family as being held together in this way. The mycelium creates a dense, impermeable mat specific to that genus and to that place. It seems to me that a lot hinges on the shadow which every family bears. Every family, like every individual, has an unconscious, not a repressed self, but an essential self. It can be conceived of as a kind of armature, the sine qua non of the family's core beliefs, which they may hold even though they are unaware of it. The Rockley family, my mother's family's core beliefs, was that you could get away with anything by guile, and that the shibboleths of honesty, truth-telling and fair practice were something you could afford to ignore. Family loyalty and survival was all. When you were up against adverse circumstances, you must tell a lie. The clan had the profoundest contempt for organised religion and notions of chastity. It is interesting that my grandmother Florence, the outsider who married in, had secrets of her own to do with her racial origins and a possible family breakup. Was she secretly attracted to my grandfather because she sensed a family dubiety which matched her own? Perhaps. But with families and all social groups, the unconscious is located in the body. The Rockleys had a body language which was exclusive to them. They were much given to sweeping, idiosyncratic gestures. Many of them, my grandparents, Aunties Min and Ethel, Chum, displayed a broad, sweeping hand gesture with the thumb cocked. It always went clockwise, and it was always used to emphasise their separateness from any other group. Florence, my grandmother, learned it too, perhaps using it as a way of showing fealty to her new family. She was still using it on her deathbed. My mother, Josephine, never used it, except in mockery. She used it ironically on occasion to signify her superiority to what she saw as the ragtag and bobtail element of her kin. The Rockleys were also much given to the side eye. The side eye, often accompanied by a slight toss of the head, and a loud "ha" was often uttered. Otherwise, the Rockleys had a rather narrow range of bodily movement. This might well have had to do with the characteristic Rockley domestic interior. They were messy. Auntie Min in particular, and in general, were strangers to the mop and the broom. In their cluttered interiors, you had to have a narrow bodily sweep, or you'd knock over piles of junk. The Harper clan, my father's side, were utterly different. They had little loyalty to each other. Indeed, mutual hostility was quite important and common. They were essentially violent and saw the outside world as something to contest rather than something to negotiate with. Both men and women of the clan tended to be bullies and had the profoundest difficulty with expressing tenderness or vulnerability. Their shared body language was stolid. They made a virtue out of being unresponsive to circumstance. Their bodies were unusually strong, but not very supple. Unlike the Rockleys, they were very controlled about their stuff. Harper interiors were tidy and often stark. Hence my father, and reportedly his father before him, referred to any domestic chaos as looking like Jackie Pownall's, who was a well-known junk merchant. So, with such contrasting armatures and body language, how was a little person, myself, to negotiate them? Both my parents had been abandoned in their childhood, but they had managed it differently, according to their family customs. My father had shut down, apart from towards my mother, for a brief period. My mother had become emotionally very needy, often awkwardly so. My subsequent difficulties were no worse than anyone else's, I suppose. I solved the issue by cutting the Gordian knot of family attachment, by deciding never to have children, never to perpetuate the line. And so the family history ends with me. It seems a shame, perhaps, that that particular Rubicon was crossed long ago. But more is at issue, perhaps. Family history teaches us a lot about patterns of attachment. The family can be a safe haven where close attunement between members can develop, or it can be a place of gladiatorial combat. But so much depends on chance. Who happened to fall downstairs? Who fell beneath a tram? Who developed diphtheria? And, more importantly, it depends on who was able to love you in a way that would nourish you and not repress. What we need to consider are the elements of class and historical period. The interpersonal discourses between individual families are profoundly dependent on social circumstance. Classes and class fractions have an emotional landscape of their own. There can be a slippage between them, of course, but on the whole, the emotional repertoire of every group displays a shared notion about what kind of love, what kind of touch, what kind of support is the right thing. And these right things change quite radically from one historical period to the next. So here we are. I feel I owe my ancestors everything, in one sense, their contradictions, their difficulties, made me what I am, but only to a certain extent. I wanted to break away from what was offered to me. My kin stand behind me. They are anterior to me. Perhaps they expected my rebellion. Perhaps they were slightly, silently waiting for it in the darkness of the past. I hope you enjoy these stories, and if you did, it would be nice if you could like and subscribe, and also in the comment box if you'd like to suggest other sorts of stories you'd like me to read, or what you like or don't like, that would be great.